How are you doing today, everybody? I just love the fact that you'll come and join me on these Tuesday mornings. And it's just such a pleasure to share ideas and thoughts with you. And I do want to share a couple of upcoming things that are happening and just some basic information. And as you come on, I'd love it if you would put your name and where you're from in the chat box. That would be great. I actually have a little comment there for you, and we're going to be talking about that this morning. And the kind of the theme is God a redecorator? Does He want to redecorate you? I thought it was an interesting concept, and it's from a book by Max Lucado, which is just like Jesus. So we'll talk about that in just a minute. But as we get started, first of all, in Kansas City, so I'll fill you in on a little bit of Kansas City stuff. On Friday, this coming Friday, the first Friday of the month, we are starting back. We have not met for Friday morning breakfast since pre-COVID. So it's been, I guess, 4 years, right? So here we are. So we're starting Friday. It's actually the same location, but under new management and new name. It was Egg and I over in Lee Summit, just off of 291 Highway. The details are on the Fun Fearless Female page group if you want to go check that out, or send me a message and I'll be glad to post it for you. We'll meet at 9:30 at Pega's. So Pega's bought it out or took it over, whatever that looks like. I've been in there. It's all cleaned up and nice and has a great room in the back, which is where we will meet for our business breakfast. So Fun Fearless Female Business Breakfast Friday morning in Lee Summit. Then in a couple of weeks, we have our third Wednesday luncheon, and that'll be coming up. And we meet in Lenexa at Silo Canyon Farms. It's situated on a golf course, beautiful venue. Food is good, basically farm to table menu. So that's a great way of getting together as well. So just want you to know about those. And then also coming up for the Peak Girls in Las Vegas, they have their third Thursday luncheon. I hope that one day there's so many of these that there's no way I can actually recite them all at one time. So as we are looking to grow and expand and touch more women's lives, touch more lives for Jesus, more lives to encourage and uplift women, would it be great if I had like 20 that I needed to announce. But right now, we have live in-person luncheons having in Kansas City and the third Thursday in Las Vegas. And also the information is on the page there, how to get your tickets, etc. And then twice a month, I'm posting Christian women interviews. So it's our Faith Talk interviews where women share their God stories, how they became a Christian, all the God winks, the different stories, things that have happened in their lives. And I don't know, some of y'all who've been watching those, but to me, they are just so powerful. I just love hearing their stories. And, you know, the thing about a story is nobody can take it away from you. It is your story. Nobody else's is going to be just like it. How you respond, how you walk your walk and live your life is only you, which is, like I said, I think that's very exciting. So that's what happens in these interviews. And it's on the first and third Friday mornings is when they are posted. And this week is going to be Lynn Franklin. And you just never know where God's going to show up. She talks about several instances of how you just never would have expected that God would show up like he does. And he always surprises us. It's always such a great adventure. So Lynn Franklin will be our featured interview on Friday morning. So join us for that. Then also, I want to just let y'all know that so the videos that post on those first and third Fridays are also podcasts. And the podcast can be found. So all of these are on YouTube. But also you can find them on Spotify and Apple Podcasts too. There's a whole bunch of others, but usually those are the two people know the most. I had a lady ask me at church on Sunday. She said, well, I understand you do podcasts and stuff. And I said, yeah, I do. I don't broadcast it. I mean, I don't hide it, but at church it doesn't seem the place to be talking about it. So she said, well, where can I find you? And that made me think, I don't know where you can find me. I mean, I should know, right? I should know myself. So, yeah, you can find me on Spotify. I went and actually looked myself up to make sure I really was there. So it's really easy. Delinda Lane. Just go to Spotify and search for Delinda Lane. Same way with Apple Podcasts. And my music is on both of those as well. So my music stuff as well as my podcasts are there. So just to let y'all know, if you want to hear some wonderful Christian women, their stories of how God's working in their life. So I think that's all my little announcements for the morning. So how are you? I would love it if you could give me a comment and a quick like, hello, how are you today? Okay, I'll be watching for that on the sideline. So if you see me look down, that's what I'm doing because I have to look down to look at the chat box. All right. So this morning, um, I've just started this book. It was so funny. So y'all remember, I mean, if you've been around with me for a little while, so we just moved to Kansas City, back to the Kansas City area last September. Matter of fact, we closed on our house, I think it was September 18th. And as we were moving in, we have had stacks of boxes. I mean, literal couple stacks of boxes that we just moved from house to house from the last several moves. And when we moved to this house, I told Bill, we are going to either unpack these boxes or we are going to give away these books. So it became a priority when we moved here. So we bought the bookcases, had them installed, all that kind of thing, and unpacked the boxes. And it's been great because I come across books that I've had for a long time that I forgot about, and I was looking through my shelf, and I found this book here. I really like Max Lucado, and truthfully, y'all, I don't know if it's Lucado or Lucado, but I'm going to say it's Lucado unless somebody tells me different, and you can tell me, and it won't hurt my feelings. So this is the book. I'm not sure if you will see it. It looks on my screen like it's just right. So Max Lucado, Just Like Jesus. And as I opened it up, it's so cool. It is from, so Christmas, December 25th, 1998, that Bill Bill and the kids gave this to me, and they each put a little note in it. You probably can't tell, you won't be able to read it for sure. But it was really special to see that. And so, I picked it up and just started reading about, this is a wonderful thing to talk to all of you about. So I may very well be using this book a little bit as a guide over the next couple of weeks because I think it's really packed with some great things to just help us as we strive to be more like Jesus. And most everybody who watches this, y'all know that that's the most important thing to me is being a believer and sharing that and sharing the message of Jesus with all of you. As well as business things and funny things, we share all kinds of things because as Christians, we have a full, complete life. Mind, body, spirit, we're all connected. We just are not separate beings within our being. So in this book, as he talks about Jesus, and I love him, what he says on here is, God loves you just the way you are, in that great hallelujah, but he refuses to leave you that way. Refuses to leave you that way. He wants you to be more like Jesus. And I just love that because I think as believers, as Christians, that's what we want because Jesus is everything and his love permeates everything. So when we become more like Jesus, we become more loving, more forgiving. We have more grace. We have more mercy. We have more patience with people. I'll tell you right now, that is a good one for me because I've been needing a little bit more patience with everything. I don't know about you, but there's certain times of our lives, I think, that just things seem to get a little either harder or a little more stressful or whatever. And so the more we focus, and one of the comments he made here in the book, and it's not a new thought, but it reminded me, is that as we go along, that one thought. This is what's lovely about live video, right? Live stream, is that okay? Well, I just lost my train of thought, but he talks about how God just wants us to become more like Him. Jesus reflected God. He said all through the Gospels, he does what his Father tells him. His hands are the hands of God. And this last year, during the process of my Bible reading, I decided I really wanted to go back through the Gospels again and really see about Jesus. Not just for the sake of read the Bible, whatever, I want to get through it. Was really, I want to see what did Jesus really say himself. Not what everybody else says he says and any commentaries, as much as I wanted that glimpse and really see Jesus himself as the person of God and reading through the Gospels and really trying to understand his mind and his character and the whole way shows his love. I mean, the Bible is a love story, from God to us. It's a great thing. So as we strive to be just like Jesus, there's times when he just needs to take a hold of us and make some changes. So I love the concept of redecorating. So in the book, Max talks about how his wife is a major decorator, and that no matter where they move, the first thing she does is start decorating and changing the carpet. And I guess at the time of this book, she had just redecorated his office and changed the wallpaper or the paint and changed the carpet and all of that. So as we look at that, and he made the comparison, and I really like it. That's how God takes us. He loves us just as we are. He loves us just as we are, but he wants us to be better. He's not going to leave us that way. Those areas where he needs to tweak us, those areas where we can become more like him, maybe those areas where we do need more patience and looking at people through his eyes and not just through ours, and not being bitter and taking away that. Um, on the back here, he says, and if you're not in any of these categories, you probably know someone who is. And he said, where did we get the idea that we cannot change? We just, I think most everybody realizes that we can change, but sometimes we just stay stuck. It says, boy, my eyes are doing funny things on me. It says, when did it say, when you hear the words, and I've heard these numerous times through multiple people, it's just my nature to worry. No, it is not your nature to worry. You can change that. I've told y'all before, my mother is the worry wart of all time. And I talk to her all the time about it's like, Mother, you don't have to worry so much. You're worried about things that may not ever even happening. Alicia's that way also. Neither one of them mind. They both know that I share things on the thing. So don't ever feel like I'm talking about them in a bad way. But they both just worry. And it's like, y'all, if you just would release that and just know God's got this, it's like, I think if you're worrying a lot, you're just not living in faith. Just to know God has this for us. We don't have to worry about it and carry it around so much. One of the other ones is well, I'm just pessimistic. I was born that way. No, you were not. It's something that you learn, and you can unlearn it. You can learn to be more optimistic. Again, are you going to believe God's got this and that you can have a more optimistic attitude and more optimistic outlook in your life? Where the other one is, let's see, I can't help. Oh, I can barely read this one. Oh, I can't help the way I react. It just happens. And oftentimes that's with people who have anger issues. Because yes, you can change how you react to something. That's all in that having a choice, which I talk about a lot, that we have a choice of how we react. We cannot change that the world had COVID. We cannot change that somebody has a severe illness that We cannot change those things, but we can change how we look at it, how we react to it. And that's where, as we allow our heart to become more like Jesus, once we begin that journey, and it's an ongoing thing. You're never going to always, until we reach heaven above and see Jesus face to face, we are never going to be just like Jesus. But our life gets better. Our joy is more abundant as we grow closer to him in this journey, as we grow closer to him and we begin to have more peace and more joy in our life. There are just ways that Jesus can work through us if we allow him to do that. I'm going to look over here real quick. Hey, Kathy, good morning. Oh, I know this gorgeous, gorgeous weather in Kansas City. We may actually listen to your show from the patio. Well, there you go. That's a great way to do it. It is. It was so nice yesterday afternoon. I kept walking outside. Like, oh, this is wonderful. It's unusual because last week when we were literally physically moving, Justin and Alicia to different locations, they were both moving. It was so hot, I thought I was going to pass out with all the heat. So now it is really, really nice and very appreciated to have this nice, cool weather. So we really we do appreciate that. So as we go through, as we talk about these things, as having a heart like his, Jesus begins to redecorate us, right? So to speak, redecorate our hearts. Look at where things that need to be dusted off. Are we holding grudges? Do we have lack of forgiveness? And here's some of the topics that we'll be going over these next few weeks that he has in here. So I just like to sometimes what I'm going to do with a theme, as I'm doing a theme for a few weeks to let y'all know kind of what's coming up. And the first one is having a heart like his. Imagine, and Max takes us through this, I don't know, this practice, I guess, of what it would be like if you could, if literally could be the same you. So just imagine you're just the same you, but Jesus, and as believers, we know he's already in our heart. So I'm not saying that. This is just a way of beginning to sense the difference that Christ can make in your heart as we continue to let him take over more of our activities and more of our thoughts and having the mind of Christ. So if Jesus for one day totally just took over your body, okay, and went to the same appointments, was on the same Zoom calls, went to the grocery store, it was actually him. Now y'all understand, right? I'm not saying Christ doesn't live in you now. The Spirit of Christ does. But if Jesus sort of just zapped in us and took over, and as we walked our walk, what would that be like? Actually, us seeing through him, seeing through our eyes. It sounds very complicated, but somehow my brain gets it. Uh, this is terrible. This example that's coming to my mind right now. You know, in the movie Ghost, and Patrick Swayze would take over Whoopi Goldberg, and he would just go whoop. And pretty soon, it was still her life, but she was responding and acting as if she was Patrick Swayze. So I know, terrible probably comparison, but gives you basically the idea. So Jesus like just took over your body, and it was him seeing through your eyes, and him touching, and him just picking up the phone and all of those activities. What would that be like? And if you could imagine that, and then like, okay, Lord, so that's how I want to be. I want to literally, when I look at people, to see them through your eyes. I want to have your heart. I want to be more like Jesus. Um, there's a really great song. I haven't sung it in years. It's probably could even be from the 70s. I don't know, 70s or 80s. And it's called "Lord, I Want to Know You More," and I want to. Lord, I want to know you more. Like just deep within my heart, deep within my soul, I want to know you more, because I really believe that as we know him, then he changes everything in our perspective, y'all. It's really about our perspective and how we look at things and how we walk our walk that makes all the difference. So as Max goes through here, talks about a forgiving heart, and how as we get closer to Christ and as he begins redecorating us. I know I've shared this story before over the years, but when I first started, one of my first coaching, the coach that I had, um, she really brought something to me as she was learning more about me and where I was and where God was taking me. She felt that there was some unforgiveness, and there really was. There's an incident that happened between my mother and I when I was a teenager, and it really was painful. And she was so severe. My mother was very, very strict, and she was so severe in her punishment that she took me out of an activity my senior year of high school that was the thing I loved most in my life at that time, as far as an activity goes. And I resented her for years. And every time the comment with anything would come up about that, I just really reacted badly. And I never, so I never forgave her. I guess she never said she was sorry, and she never acted like she did anything wrong. My mother, that's one thing my mother doesn't do, is apologize for things. But it was deeply rooted, I mean, really deep in my heart. And I had just buried it so much. So when, and this coach's name was Lynn, and when she brought that out, it took me a while to even identify with it or even admit to it. Because overall, in most cases, I'm a very forgiving person. I can forgive and move on. But in that particular case, because it, I don't know if y'all remember back in your teenage years, those things, some of those things that happen in our belief systems and how we do things really stayed with us a long time, way into our adulthood. So, and this was probably this awakening of this in my heart was probably about 20 years ago. I'm not quite sure. Well, maybe not. Maybe 15. Doesn't matter. But in any case, I was able to forgive my mother, and I actually had a conversation with her later. And she even then said, "Well, Delinda, I did what I thought was best for you at the time, you know." And she, like I said, I had to forgive her, even though she didn't ask for it. She didn't think she deserved it, but I had to release those feelings in my heart. So there may be those things as we talk about things that you may find within your own heart. What are the things that are going to help you get closer to Jesus, to be more like Him in His way of loving and forgiving? One of the other chapters is the touch of God, having a compassionate heart. Hearing God's music, I love that one. A listening heart, that really listening. And as I go through, I'll be able to pull out more things to share with you about that. Being led by an unseen hand, that as God leads us, and are we following Him? A worship, hungry heart of just wanting that presence and that worship and praise that comes. Um, a focused heart, and how important it is to focus on those things. Just reading some of the chapter titles to you. Nothing but the truth, an honest heart, a greenhouse of the mind, a pure heart. Now I'm interested. I don't know what's going to be in that chapter. Finding gold in the garbage, a hope-filled heart, being able to just have that hope in your heart, no matter what's going on around us. And sometimes that is a hard thing to find. I know a lot of people really struggle with that. A rejoicing heart, an enduring heart, and then the final chapter being just fixing your eyes on Jesus. So as we take this journey together, I look forward to sharing this with you. And think about I think about when we moved into our house here. We're in Raymore, Missouri. We've been looking for 3 months. We had made offers on at least three, if not four, other houses. We were getting pretty frustrated. And I remember just like, okay, Lord, this is getting pretty hard. And I remember just raising my hand and saying, okay, Lord, just show me the house. Like, not show me the money, but show me the house, or just bring it so that when I walk in that door, I'm going to know that that's the house you have for us. Because I know you have one after 3 months. It doesn't matter how many months, and I'll wait as long as it takes. But just let us know when we walk in that that's the house that we want. And I mean, I think it might have been 2 days, might have been 3 days. We got a little notice on the real estate MLS postings that this house had come on the market. And I immediately sent a message to the agent, and I said, I want to see this house today. What can I do to hook up with you? And because I am an agent already, I'm a broker actually now in both states, Kansas and Missouri. But that time I was a broker in Kansas. I said, as a broker, is there a way that I could, just meet you there or whatever? So anyway, she made it happen, and I saw the house, and truly, y'all, I did. I walked in, and it's like, oh my gosh, this is it. I'm like, thank you, Lord. I knew you were going to do it. I knew you had the right house, but it was just so nice to finally have it happen. Sometimes God's timeline is a little different. I would have liked it if He'd shown it to us in July instead of middle of August or September to move in. So I think that's what happens. When Christ is working through us, when we're getting to be more like Him, we begin to look for those positive things. And as we moved into the house, the guy was immaculate. He was very much I don't see whether he even had meticulous Mark is what his friends called him, and he said he liked that. He'd really like to keep me. So we moved in, and the house was clean. It had somebody come in. But even so, when I moved in, there's two big projects that I want to do. There's a wall that I want to have moved out. All right. So I think sometimes in our own hearts, just like as I make this comparison to the house that we moved into, there were some areas that I needed to go in and clean my own way, if you know what I mean. I call it nesting. I always have to come in but even though it's clean, I got to go in and clean it myself. I have to wipe the cabinets off myself. I have to take the broom in the corners in the corners. uh, and I want this wall moved. So as Jesus is in our hearts, he often needs to, like, sometimes it's a wall. And as I told you about the forgiveness thing with my mother, that was pretty much a wall that I just had to break down. Jesus had to break down and get past that. There's been other smaller things like, clean the windows of my heart that I just needed to see better, that God would um, lift the veil from my eyes, as he talks about in scripture, so that I could see more clearly what his will is and how to treat other people. So as Jesus sweeps out our heart and goes in, and maybe he has to take down a few walls, he still loves you. He loves you just the way you are, but he loves you too much to let you stay that way. Maybe you have a root of bitterness in your heart. Maybe you get just impatient. How are you as a driver on the highway? Do you like explode and go crazy if somebody pulls in too quick in front of you? That I have that a little bit. That's not a big one. And for me, I don't know if that's just not been one, but I have a few friends that is so much there. That you think that is how Jesus would react if we want to really be having him looking at the world through his eyes and being more like him. You think that's how he would react when somebody pulled in front of him? You can make that decision yourself. So there's those other ways as well as Jesus can do. And one of the things I pray a lot, I mean, it started when my kids were little, and it just continues to this day in regard particularly to the family, to my children, and to just our family in general, is that the Lord will, I pray for discernment, wisdom and discernment, so I can really have that wisdom of Christ to know how to react, how to respond, and when. Every it's not always the right moment, right, to do those things. So anyway, I look forward to going through this with you, and I encourage you if you want to get it. Like I said, it's Mexicato, and right here. Oh, let's see if I can get it. Oh, it's catching on the replay. Oh, well, it's just like Jesus. Let's see that. It's always hard to get that right reflection. Let's see. Let me try this. Oh, there you go. Potato, just like Jesus. All right. So I'm going to just be going through that a little bit and doing some talks on that and how we can apply that to our lives as we grow closer to him. Because I think so often we think as we take care of the outer things in our lives, in our business, in our personal lives, our family lives, all of that, that's how we really take care of things, making things better, giving us more joy and happiness. But I really believe it is as we strive to get to know Christ better, as we become more like him, as we begin to have more the mind of Christ, we begin to think like he does, that all those other things just sort of fall in place. Wouldn't you agree? Sometimes we're trying to fix all the stuff out here when really it's at our own heart. As we begin to let Jesus redecorate our heart and make those changes, then we become closer to him, and he works through us in a more efficient way. It's amazing, say, as we respond to his call, as we respond to how he would have us respond to the things that happen to our life, I think we have more joy, we have more blessings, and when we praise him for them, just really acknowledge the work he's doing in our hearts. It gives us more joy, gives us more happiness, and brings more people. Yeah, that's what brings people to you, because they see the light of Christ in you, and it's our job, it's our goal to share that with others. So, all right, thanks for being here this morning. I love it. Here we are starting September. My gosh, another month. It'll be the holidays before we know it, and that's a good thing because I love the holidays. But I don't know, I'm not quite ready to be there just yet. I wanted to be here, but I have a few things that I need to take care of before that. So, all right, everybody, thanks so much for being here. Hi, Denise. Good morning. I'm so glad to see you. Denise is out in Las Vegas. And again, Kathy, good morning to you. Thanks so much. Everybody go out and make it a great day, because why? Because it is your choice. Go out and make what you want it to be. Love you guys, and thanks so much.